All right. I don't know what nonsense has been going on around here for the last few weeks, but I am packed to restore order. Mike T, RC, Hawk is here. Let's do this thing, people. Training camps begin this week. And let's start them with some opening statements. RC, I will begin with you as we look forward to the beginning of the season. Give me an opening statement.
Joe Burrow will win the MVP. Listen, he said it on quarterback. It normally goes to the best quarterback on the best team. He's won the comeback player of the year 2 times. He's so good, he got T. Higgins $115 million. He got Jamar Chase $140 million. 43 tubs, 4,900 yards. Joe Burrow wins the MVP this year. No matter how good the team is, he's going to be that special.
Well, that's an interesting point because he probably was the MVP of the league last year, just having his team in contention all the way to the end. But we say best quarterback on best team. Will this team be good enough, Hawk?
That's the tough part, is because if I think that Joe Burrow is going to be the MVP, that means that defense has taken not only a little step, a huge step. And without that, to your point, RC, best player on best team, I don't have the confidence in that defense.
He can't win the MVP because we got another one coming up.
Okay, fair enough. We call that a harbinger of things to come. Mike T, let's get to your opening statement.
I love Love. Jordan Love will win the MVP. A lot of the reasons RC just mentioned. Look, you take away 3 or 4 throws from last year, he was right there. I love Matthew Golden. He was my favorite receiver in the draft last year. Great route runner, great hands. You put him around Dontavius Wicks, Jay Reed, everybody else. This team will score and score often. Little concerned about the secondary, but they should be explosive on offense. This is Jordan Love's year.
Jordan Love was my preseason pick to win MVP last year, and then he got hurt in the very first game in Brazil. To some degree, he never looked fully himself. He did not play the way I expected.
He was injured early, but this is the year we get a definitive statement on who Jordan Love will be. He was everybody's niche pick to be the MVP, take that next step and be with the top tier of quarterbacks. This year, we figure out if he's going to be the guy or just the guy.
That I think is right. And there are heavy expectations that are through no fault of his own. But he's following in this lineage, right? It was Favre to Rodgers, now it's Rodgers to Love. He showed you the glimpses. People want him to be that next guy. Finally, Hawk, give me an opening statement.
Yeah, the Steelers will win a playoff game, and because of that, Aaron Rodgers will return for another season. Look, I'm from Western Pennsylvania, RC. I know you spend a lot of time in Western Pennsylvania. If this guy wins a playoff game, his personality, which is quirky and you can talk about it, it will fit perfectly where the Pittsburgh Steelers are. Not only that, he will be intoxicated with affinity, and he's going to say, hey, let's run it back, Pittsburgh fans.
You buying it?
I'm not buying that.
Come on, RC.
But I am buying that this team is good. When you look at what Aaron Rodgers was able to do down the stretch of last season, and now you couple that with Mike Tomlin's allergy to losing, I expect this team to be a playoff team. And if he can make the most important plays in the moments that are critical to this team situationally, Aaron Rodgers finds a way to win a playoff game. They get to the divisional round of the playoffs, but next year they'll be putting all of their cards in the middle of the table to get one of those top quarterbacks.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to use facts and data. Darius gave me some great stats. Since in the history of the NFL, excluding Tom Brady, we've had one quarterback play in one playoff game at 42, which is what Aaron Rodgers will be in December. That was Drew Brees in 2020, one and done. So I'm just going to go with
Darius ain't himbo. that don't make him right.
And Aaron Rodgers isn't Tom Brady.
No, I mean, Aaron Rodgers may not be Tom Brady, but the Steelers are going to be better than everyone is saying, and they already were a playoff team as they were. So we'll, beyond the opening statements, we'll have more of those as we go, but there are 2 teams that start training camp today, and you are interested in both of them. One of them is the Chiefs, the other the Dallas Cowboys, whose buses rolled into Oxnard, California last night. After a 7-10 record last season, Dak is back this year, and expectations are high. Pro Bowl guard Tyler Smith certainly not shy about what he expects from his team this season.
Super Bowl champions, that's always the expectation, so yeah.
You think that's a realistic goal?
I think it is a realistic goal because we can win the Super Bowl. Like, why not? Why can't we win? Do you think it's unrealistic?
You think the roster is in place to do that?
I think it is in place to do that, yes, sir.
What do we think of that? We're throwing him on the middle of the table.
First off, this man was interrogated like somebody who old lady found the code to his DMs on Instagram. Every time he answered a question, dude had another question for him. He is a non-believer.
Clearly.
Sheesh.
I will say this. in 2016 with the Browns, we were 1-15. And the motto going in to next season was, why not us? And they went 0-16. So when you come into a season, you have to have that, unrealistic view of yourself. And I'm not saying it's unrealistic, but to RC's point, this is how this thing goes.
There is a pathway to respectability. I had a long time with Brian Schottenheimer in New York when he was our offense coordinator. He wants to run the ball and use play action. Last year, they were 28th in the league in play action. If they could get some production in the run game, which maybe they can between Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue from Texas, maybe that will allow Dak Prescott to get the ball, George Pickens more, and to CeeDee Lamb. And if they could just do that, enough guys, they should be good on offense.
Where is our Cowboys blue affinity for having a prognostication of positivity? Right? Because here's the thing. This is going to be the second best quarterback wide receiver duo in all of football. Joe Burrow, Chase, and Higgins will be number 1. Dak Prescott, George Pickens, and CeeDee Lamb will be number 2. You have CeeDee Lamb, who is a top 5 wide receiver based on production. And then you have George Pickens, who is a top 5 wide receiver based on what he left the hospital with. And now you couple those with Dak Prescott, who finished second in MVP voting 2 years ago, and a team that found a way to win 7 games last year with Cooper Rush and a defense that couldn't stop a nosebleed. I believe that this team has a chance to compete, but I think Dak Prescott shows us this year why he's the highest paid quarterback in the league. CeeDee Lamb shows that he's one of those ones, and George Pickens has something to prove. And everything that you're hearing out of that building is he's focused on being a better man away from the field. He's focused on maturing, but we know what he can do when you give him the ball in 50-50 opportunities.
Is it oversimplifying it? I said it in the tease. We will tell you what their entire season rests on one thing, and to me, RC just touched on it. Is George Pickens going to be the player that he was drafted with the potential to be? Because if he is, then I agree with RC. There may not be any team outside of Cincinnati that has a better 1-2 punch at wide receiver, and Dak Prescott could have an enormous year, and that could actually transform this team, which by their standards are flying pretty low under the radar. That could transform them into a legitimate contender.
George Pickens could change the trajectory of this franchise and organization. You have Dak Prescott, who's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in NFL history. You have Micah Parsons, who will be the highest non-paid quarterback in NFL history. And for George Pickens, to your point about living up to his expectation, RC's just said it. When he left the hospital, he has number 1 receiver capabilities. Even when you watched him in Pittsburgh, it wasn't about ability. It was about consistency. It was about leadership. It was about, hey, you are the number 1 guy. You're getting more attention. It's going to take you being a professional so we can build upon that. In Dallas, he doesn't have to do that because CeeDee Lamb is that. So you have 2 number 1s down the field, which a defense has to take into account. And when they do that, it opens up everything for the Williams, for the Sanders, for the Dak Prescott.
And we can't forget Jake Ferguson.
Releases pressure. And Ferguson in the middle, absolutely.
There's another X factor here, which is when you acquire a receiver in the last year of his deal, which we did at the Jets, Antonio Holmes, Brandon Edwards, they're on their best behavior. They're going to be productive. It's the old carrot. So whatever George Pickens has, we're going to get the best of it. But again, to me, it all starts with 3 number 1s in the offensive line and their ability to run the ball, and that'll give them much more opportunities to those 2 guys.
And the other thing is, too, you got to look at that wide receiver room. When you have someone like CeeDee Lamb, who is still a young football player, but who is ultimately talented, now there's a synergy between George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. They'll think the same, but there's also going to be a level of respect that if CeeDee Lamb is having a day, I understand, I respect his talent, I respect the things he's accomplished. It's okay for the ball to go to him if he has the one-on-one matchup. And it's going to be the same for George Pickens coming from CeeDee Lamb. And I think that's that's so important to how they get along in that room, but also to George Pickens feeling like he's being seen throughout his tenure in Dallas.
Having been around the block a little bit, here's what I will say about the Cowboys. We tend to overstate how good they are when they're good. And now I think we have a tendency to overstate how bad they are when they're not good. This team wasn't terrible last year. They didn't go 3-14. RC just said it. In a division in which 2 of the teams wound up in the NFC Championship game, they won 7 games without their quarterback. And I might say, I think it was you who said it before I went on vacation. No team in the NFL added a better quarterback in this offseason than the Cowboys did. They added Dak Prescott. This is absolutely a playoff team at minimum.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if these players play to their potential, if Micah Parsons plays when he's playing in his biggest moments, having the effect and impact even in the biggest games. And Dak Prescott is 2023 Prescott because he has George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb. It right-sizes the run game. There's no reason why they can't make a run at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think we get into this thing where we are so down on the Dallas Cowboys right now because every time we're up on them, they let us down.
Right.
And I think we have to look at this team and some of the changes they've made. And I also think getting a guy like a Matt Eberflus is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Someone who understands defense, someone who understands how to make it tough and physical in the front line, which is something that they have been lacking. You add Kenneth Murray to the linebacking core. Now Michael Parsons doesn't have to get off of the ball. You can utilize him in the best way possible. I think this team is going to be more competitive than we've given them credit for throughout this offseason.
Absolutely. Mentioned the Cowboys and the Chiefs reporting for training camp today. Let's do a Kansas City-related more or less. These numbers all provided by ESPN Bet. RC, Patrick Mahomes, his total at touchdown passes is 27.5. What do you think?
Listen, I'm going to say more. Rashee Rice will return. We're expecting him to get suspended. He'll return this year. Xavier Worthy found his groove, especially working with Matt Nagy, being on the move, going from short to deep. And also, I think Travis Kelce will be huge in the red zone. I love what Patrick Mahomes has from a protection standpoint as compared to last year. I expect more.
That feels like a low number. Mike T, let's talk about Kelce. His total is 650.5 receiving yards. You going more or less?
Less, significantly less. That's quantitative, but qualitative, he will be immensely important. Touchdowns, third down. But I think what RC related to the explosiveness of Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, when Rashee Rice gets back from suspension, that's where the ball is going to go most of the time. He'll be impactful, just not a lot of volume.
And how about the winning Hawk? The Chiefs' total is 11.5 wins this year. We go more or less?
I'm going more. I mean, everyone's talking about how the Kansas City Chiefs weren't as good as they were last year, and they won 15 games. I don't get how the drop-off is supposed to be this loud. I actually think they're a better football team in the 2025 season than they were in the 24 season.
They're a better team this year than they were last year. Mike T, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. If the 2025 Chiefs play the 2024 Chiefs, they beat them by at least 10 points. I love when you turn a weakness into a strength. Josh Simmons to be best tackle in the game in the draft if he was healthy. Kingsley Sumateo, who was supposed to be left tackle, move him inside. Get Jaylen Brown, who could be very versatile for them. Now all of a sudden, you give Patrick Mahomes time with those receivers, guys. Last year, they were 30th in the league in air yards per attempt. He was getting rid of the ball fast. Like, they're going to be really, really good this year.
It is worth pointing out because sometimes the world moves so fast, but things seem to happen slowly. Last season feels like a lifetime ago. The Chiefs were 15-1. You said 15-2. I mean, they were 15-1, and then they didn't play their last game of the season. In games they attempted to win, they were 15-1, and by every objective measure, they should be better this year.
Well, you know what it is, though? It's recency bias. The last thing we saw was the Super Bowl, and we saw Patrick Mahomes on the run from a great Philadelphia Eagles front and turning the ball over for pick sixes. It was just so jarring for us. We couldn't understand it. And so that's our lasting memory. But this team found ways to win, but there were sort of evidence of this throughout the entire season. We were saying, okay, they're getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes isn't holding the ball. He isn't pushing it down the field. And so now you go out and you try to address that in the offseason, but you're adding pieces in Rashee Rice, who we saw start to excel down the stretch of his rookie year, along with Xavier Worthy. I believe that this team is going to be really good, although the AFC West has improved as a whole.
The field has gotten better. Like, that's a fact of the matter, too. But when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, you have a Patrick Mahomes who has a chip on his shoulder. You've seen the interviews. You see how he's approaching the season, and that does mean something for a guy as decorated as Patrick Mahomes is. On top of that, when you have a football team and they're young, and I'm talking specifically to this wide receiver core, when they're young and it advances a year, your team is actually better because now they have experience. Now they've gelled. Now they can go into a season with chemistry. You're talking about Xavier Worthy. You're talking about Rashee Rice, who essentially is in his second year of this offense. And you're talking about Hollywood Brown. When the team is old and a year goes, then you got worse because when you're on the other side of 28, you're 29, you're 30, you don't expect as much from those team members. But looking at Travis Kelce, looking at Patrick Mahomes and what this offense is, they are no longer going to be relying on Travis Kelce for the production for their passing game. And that is going to be a benefit to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I want to go back to what RC said. They got waxed in the Super Bowl. We all saw that. But I love what they did. They were so aggressive. Re-signed Trey Smith. And again, go get a guy like Jalen Moore. Nobody even knows about him. Go get Josh Simmons. Like, to me, when you make a weakness a strength, and now you could protect Patrick Mahomes, like, what they could do on offense, like, again, last year was all dink and dunk. He was getting rid of the ball. Like, this is going to be a much better offense.
Also, too, don't judge this team early on in the season, right? It's going to take some time for them to get the chemistry, for them to gel. They won't even be whole from a roster standpoint at the beginning of the season. What you want to see from this team and what I expect to see from them is when they're entering the playoffs, that's when they're 10 points better than the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs. And if you can be that under Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes at the helm, that means you give him a chance late in games, and we've seen what he's capable of doing.
Just think about the bar that they have set. We are talking about them like last year was a down year. They won 15 regular season games and 2 playoff games and wound up in the Super Bowl. That's a down year by the Chiefs' ridiculously lofty standards, which actually does demonstrate anything short of getting to the Super Bowl is a disappointment for them regardless.
Yeah, that's a curse of success. We talk about Joe Burrow the complete opposite way because he did that once, right? And when you look at Patrick Mahomes and what they've been able to do, you're waiting for another team to supplant the dynasty, and I just don't see it happening.
Well, Patrick Mahomes is the very apex, the very top of his sport.